The day that I traveled, things were a little more chaotic than I had expected them to be. Hi, welcome to my first ever YouTube video. So last month I traveled from India to London, and few months before I traveled to London, my sister had traveled from India to Canada, and she was able to find immense number of YouTube videos which she was able to use as in to learn what she can expect at the airport or measures by different airlines in place. However, I was very surprised that there weren't much videos available. Rather, there wasn't any video that I was able to find to give me kind of a brief overview about what I can expect during my travel in this pandemic from India to London. So which is why I decided to post document my experience in the form of this video, and hoping that it may help you, your friend, or your friends of friends who might be traveling from India to London or any other part of United Kingdom for that matter during this pandemic. Okay, so without a lot of delay, let's get started. First thing which I remember was required to be done was I had to fill this passenger locator form, which is nothing very complicated but a very simple form which was shared by my visa agency with me. Now this form contains details, your contact details, the place that you will be putting up at at your destination. And other than that, it also asks you to fulfill in the details of an emergency contact. Now, this is merely for the purpose that, say, in case somebody in your flight is detected to be COVID positive upon landing in United Kingdom, so then they can reach out to you, or maybe using your emergency contact, they can reach out to you. It is not a complex form, it is a very simple form. The next step is around when you reach the airport. Now, my flight was on 17th of August and I traveled by British Airways. As per my understanding, this was one of the very first non-Vande Bharat flights which had taken off, and I think it was the first flight which had taken off after a period of about 5 months. So to be honest, everybody at the airport was quite clueless. Now this might have changed now, because I know that there are frequent flights which have been flying out of India and into India, but at that point of time, especially the day that I traveled, things were a little chaotic, more chaotic than I had expected them to be. So like my flight was at about 1:30 in the morning, and the check-in was supposed to start 4 hours before the flight. However, until 10:30, we were made to stand in queues outside the airport gates. And not many people had an idea about what exactly is going on and when exactly are the gates going to open for us to go in. So now for this period of your when you're waiting at the airport, I would advise that you carry some water bottle or some snacks with you, because this wait, it was long and it was very difficult. You can't even leave your luggage at the gate and just go to use a restroom or whatever, especially if you're traveling alone. So that was quite challenging. I had my parents with me, they were waiting with me, but I could see other people were facing this challenge because they had luggage to handle and then they had to use the restroom or they had to go get water or something. So the situation was kind of very tricky over there. And also, while we were waiting in the queue, we were handed this form which again requested for our details. It was nothing very specific, it was just our name, phone number, identifier which you can put in on your Aadhaar card or preferably your passport number, your address in India, your address where you're expecting to stay upon reaching on your destination. And this form was like a sheet of A4 paper, and this form was the same form in the first half and in the second half. So now this form we had to fill while we were waiting in the queue, and once we had checked in at the very first gate where you show your ticket and your passport, and once you check in just at the gate, just when you enter the airport, so we were asked to show this form. So the person over there asked me if I had any symptoms, and I guess the same was also documented in my form, and he tore the form into half and he kept one half of the form. After this, the next step was the check-in of luggage. Now, I would very strongly recommend over here that you do a web check-in. That is something which I had done, and surprisingly not many passengers had done that. As a result of which, we were all made to stand in queue, but because I had done the web check-in already, so they kind of put me in a priority lane and I was able to check in my luggage quite quickly in comparison to other people. Now, if you talk about the social distancing in these two cases, when we were waiting outside the airport and inside the airport for checking in our luggages, there wasn't much social distancing being followed, if I'm being honest with you. Yes, definitely people were wearing masks, but that was completely out of their own choice. It was not that somebody was coming and asking you to put on a mask or put on gloves or anything like that. So once the luggage was checked in, we moved on to our regular security check and immigration. At the immigration, the form that I had mentioned, which was given to us before we entered the airport and had two halves, the one half of which was submitted right at the gate. So at the immigration, the other half of the form was asked for. So I would recommend you to keep it handy, because that is something which I did. I kept the other half of the form, I put it in my luggage, and then when the person at the immigration, he asked me for the form, I had to fish it out. So once immigration and security check was done, it was very simple. We went for our boarding gate. Now, from here to the boarding gate, it was actually a very different experience. So when my sister had traveled, or from other people who I know who had traveled previously, so they had told me that the water or food, nothing of that sort is available at the airport. And it is recommended that you carry your own water bottle and your own food. Now, I definitely agree with that, because that is very safe in comparison to drinking water or getting food from outside the store. But just in case that is not an option for you, you need not worry about it, because I could see that there are many shops which were open at the airport. I'm not talking just about the refreshment shops. There were definitely some coffee shops, etc., which were open, but also in terms of the duty-free stores that we have at the airport, they were also open. I would not say all 100% of them were open, but yeah, I would say 40 to 50% of the stores were open. And another thing which I noticed on my way from after the immigration security to my boarding gate was that people in my flight, as such, we were not given any protective gear in terms of the shield, the plastic shield, or the hazmat suits. But I could see that for other flights, the people were standing near the gates and it looked like a flood of Smurfs, because people were wearing these protective gears. But surprisingly, people in my flight were not distributed those, or I don't know what the reason behind that is. Maybe people in economy class or maybe people who were just seated in the middle rows were given. I am not sure about that, but honestly, I did not see anybody boarding my flight wearing a protective gear like that. So another thing which was worth noting over here is that I saw that there have been a lot of vending machines which have been put up. I'm not sure if this was something which was put in place previously, but now there are a good number of vending machines which have been put up at the airport at quite a few distances here and there. So you can definitely get your refreshments or a bottle of water from these vending machines if you feel the need to do so. Next step, once you're waiting at your boarding gate and once you're done with your boarding, you went to the flight. It is nothing out of the ordinary. It was a very normal experience, except for one thing. If you're somebody like me who relies on the air hostess help to stow away your cabin baggage, I would advise you to put the weight in your cabin bag to minimum, because from what I was told, the air hostess has been instructed to not touch the passenger's luggage. So I had a very nice gentleman sitting next to me who helped me put away my luggage. But if you are somebody, say, of an older age, or if your luggage is too heavy, or you suffer from physical injury which prevents you from picking up a heavy luggage, this might be a problem for you. So I would recommend you to pack accordingly. Next thing during the flight was that we were served some sort of food on the flight. Now I would not call this a full-fledged meal. It was just some pre-cooked packed meal which was sufficient to not make you hungry during the period of flight, but not very sumptuous meal, I would say. So it was good, it was tasty, it was healthy. So yeah, you need not worry about to need to pack your own parathas on your way from India to London. So I believe that food was sufficient, at least for me. Upon reaching London airport, things were as normal as they could be. I was expecting certain restrictions, but surprisingly there weren't many. So the way we off-boarded the flight, that was more regulated than it usually is. They made us unboard the flight row-wise, which I think it should be done in normal days as well. And then the next step, when we went for the immigration, the passenger locator form that I mentioned previously at the starting of the video is something which the immigration officer at London Heathrow Airport asked from me. He also asked me the details apart from the reason behind my visit. He asked me where I would be putting up in London. And I believe those were only the details. And of course, he informed me that I need to serve 14-day self-isolation period. Now, this can be a tricky situation, especially if you're somebody like me who has to collect their British residency permit upon reaching London, because that is something which you're supposed to collect within 10 days. Because of this pandemic, since already you would be staying in self-isolation for 14 days, you can go ahead and collect your BRP after 14 days of your self-isolation and you will not be fined for it, which usually is the case. That is what I have heard and read. So you need not worry about collecting your BRP or any other such formalities. Once you're done with your immigration at the airport, you're good to go out. And again, even at London airport, even though my flight landed super early, it was 6:45 when I landed at London airport, I could see that there were many stores which were open. I needed a SIM card and it wasn't very difficult. I was able to find a SIM card store which was open, and I could very easily get a pay-as-you-go SIM. And again, the cab services are also very easily available. I know a fellow passenger who was planning to take public transport. I think that is completely your choice if you are taking certain protective measures for yourself and for the safety of others. I think it's okay, you can definitely go for public transport as well. I had ordered for a cab, and which again, it was very convenient. There weren't much problems or hassle that I faced to get the cab and get from airport to my final destination. So yeah, that was my experience of traveling from India to London. I was very scared, my family was scared for me, but I think all in all it was a very smooth experience. There isn't much anything very outlandish that I would say, except for yes, you need to keep yourself safe. Make sure you carry mask, make sure you wear your gloves. Nobody is going to ask you as such, at least I did not see anybody asking anyone to wear the mask or gloves, but I think that is for your own safety and you should definitely do that. And yes, I hope you or your loved ones, they have a wonderful and safe flight and safe travels. And let me know if there's any other question that you might have about this journey, and I will be more than happy to answer your questions to the best of my knowledge. If you like this video, please give a like, drop a comment and share this video. If there's anything that you feel that I should do differently, because this is my first video, I'll be very grateful if you could just drop a comment or a suggestion or advice. Constructive feedback is always welcome.